the way things are going in our society, whether you're long-term married or whether you're out dating again, it's really tough out there.
There's like 10 to 15% of men, they're getting all the women. Unless you get to that level, you're in deep trouble.
The combination of the online dating, but also frankly, female success. Women are doing really well. So for the first time ever this year, 30-year-old women are out earning 30-year-old men.
And especially when you get to middle class or upper middle class, it's about 70% up to 80%. It's women leaving their husbands. That's the highest in recorded history.
A lot of the techniques that are used even by pickup artists and other people when they're dating, they still can work, even in your long-term relationship. Hey, welcome to the Best Half Show about the big idea where the second half of your life can be 10 times better than the first. We cover health, wealth, and relationships here. And relationships, really are health and wealth. I mean, when you talk to people who are in their later years, in their 70s and plus, and you ask them, what did you wish you had done more of? What do you really see as a true wealth of your life? They often say it is in their relationships, which we haven't covered yet. So I'm really excited to go and cover it today. Of course, you can't take the money with you. Your health, I mean, although we talk a lot about how we can be ageless for a long time, eventually that does dwindle. But relationships is something where you can do a lot about. And of course, a lot of people, especially, the entrepreneurs that we've been, have struggled, in this area. So, the most important relationship of all is the one that you have with your primary
Your dog.
spouse.
Your dog.
There's a big bull market, man.
I thought this was about dogs. I'm sorry, I got confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't know if it's dogs or cats. It's true. I think maybe the men are partial to dogs and women partial to cats, but whatever. Stock tip, I would buy into anything related to pets.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I think pets are going to do well, and maybe extend that to robot pets.
Yes.
Because I think there's going to be a lot of lonely people out there. We're going to cover that later on today. I think it's loneliness is an epidemic. In the UK, there's a minister of loneliness.
That's right.
Such a big issue, and the way things are going in our society, whether you're long-term married or whether you're out dating again because you're at it again because you're divorced or elsewhere. I think it's really tough out there, and I think we have a lot of hard-won knowledge from our from our own lives. A lot of the research that we've done for years because of the challenges in our own relationships and our friends and colleagues' relationships. But I think if we knew some of those things.
Wow, I wish we knew these things back.
Oh man,
amazing.
Really,
our lives would be very different.
So we're going to share some real gold nuggets today.
Yes.
Or bitcoins. We're going to share some bitcoins today since we're almost at an all-time. We're actually at an all-time high of gold today too.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, hit an all-time high of gold, and Bitcoin I think is within 2% of hitting an all-time high.
Well, I did find a correlation between the Toronto weather every time we hit an all-time, record high in Toronto, Bitcoin. So I did call Jim Cramer and I just let him know that we found the correlation.
Yeah, that's super interesting. But we're not going to talk. We're going to have another show. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, gold, and other things related to investments. But today we're talking about relationships, and we've all gotten some bad advice over the years. I think this is one of those areas where the mainstream media and conventional wisdom is like 180 degrees wrong. Yeah. That's one thing I've learned.
That's true.
It's a lot of what we cover in the show is sort of contrarian thinking. Yes. And this might be some of the most contrarian of all thinking. So tell me some of the bad advice that you've got in terms of managing your primary relationship.
I mean, it's all been bad, but I would say the 50-50 idea that relationships are 50-50. And I think that absolutely doesn't work. If each partner doesn't give 100%, it's doomed to fail. If one partner is putting in 50%, you're in big trouble. So I think that's like a universal one that I think is just not true.
Yeah, but I mean, how often do people put 100, especially once they're in it for 10, 15 years and they reach a point of comfort?
Right.
And they're feeling comfortable, but they're also feeling maybe a little annoyed. So I think it's hard, to give 100. Maybe another way to look at the 50-50, look, we're in our modern age. I mean, at least here in North America, like here in Toronto, this is an expensive city.
Very expensive.
I don't think it's really possible to have a relationship where you don't have both people working.
Right.
And unless one person is making $500,000 plus a year.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really hard.
Well, just to qualify for the average house in Toronto, so just to qualify for the mortgage in an average house, which is around $1 million, you've got to be making around $250,000.
Wow.
That's just to qualify.
Just to qualify,
and
yeah.
for those that are not from Toronto, $1 million house in Toronto, it's
a shoebox, man.
It's not really where you want to live.
I think there's parking spots that cost more than that.
Right, right. So yeah, you have to have a really high income to have a decent lifestyle in Toronto.
Right. So you have both people that are working. They both bring in money. Both people are cooking and cleaning and taking care of the children and looking after the bills and the stuff around the house. And so the polarity that we used to have. So I think both of our parents, my parents have actually fabulous marriage, a really amazing marriage, a model marriage. My mom's an educated woman, but she decided to stay home once she was pregnant with me. I have 3 brothers and sisters. They're in their 70s today. They're still very much in love. They still have passion in their relationship. It's pretty amazing. But there's polarity there, right? There are roles, right, where, and they each respect each other in their roles. But my mom's in the traditional feminine role, does a great job running the household, did a great job taking care of the kids. My father did a great job of provisioning. They both have a lot of respect for each other in those roles, and I think that in many ways that's one route to success. I'm not sure it's really possible today. I think your parents are the same way. Yeah,
they're over 56 years, I think, married, super happy, probably closer now than ever. It's incredible because people are either growing together or they're growing apart, and definitely my parents, I watch them grow together. But they have very strict boundaries and rules. So my mom is in charge of cooking. My dad's in charge of cleaning. Like, they've got their roles, right, and they don't intersect, and it works well. So I think relationships where everyone's trying to do everything, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, but that is what's happening. So you're right. I mean, even in the modern relationship, as much as possible to have some polarity. Like, I know, for example, in mine, I tend to focus on larger projects that really move the meter for the family. Whereas my significant other is focused more on, I guess, the tactical things, the day-to-day kind of management. And it's something that she's good at, and I'm big at. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm big at the dreaming around the big projects and whatnot. So there's a little bit of that as much as possible. But I still think it's very hard. I don't think in our modern age we can drive the kind of polarity that really generates a really great relationship. So we need to have other strategies, because I mean, a lot of relationships really are failing. I mean, I'm a CEO coach. My clients in general are really struggling in their marital lives. They are not happy. Their sex is seldom, once a quarter, sometimes good. For them, it's kind of pathetic, right? Yeah. It was 2 or 3 times a week when they were courting. Now it's once a quarter, and you have to like beg and plead in order to get it. Lots of disrespect and then infidelity and breakup and divorce, and it's messy out there at this kind of age group, around the 45 plus or minus age group.
What's interesting about this time that we live in, it's the vast majority of women leaving the husbands.
Yeah.
And especially when you get to middle class or upper middle class, it's about 70%, up to 80%. It's women leaving their husbands. So that's the highest in recorded history. So women are getting to a point where they feel like, well, I'm making just as much money, or I've got income. I don't need him anymore. He's lazy, or he's not doing what I thought he was going to do. And this is like, I mean, I'm seeing this all the time.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, but I don't think it has to be that way. And so I want to talk today about a couple of frameworks that I really liked, because I've been spending the last few months going really deep on this, right? And really trying to understand how to have a better relationship and why these things are going wrong. So I found a couple of great things that I want to share today. In terms of bad advice that I've seen, what I'm seeing most of all, and it's especially coming from women. And to be honest, I think in general, I don't think it's a great idea to take relationship advice from women if you're a man. I think women communicate differently. I think they communicate on an emotional level. I think we like frameworks. We like facts.
Yeah.
We like data. And there are millions of men around the world that are sharing their data online. They are sharing what it is they've learned. They're creating theories as to what is really going on, and they're proving it out in the field. And so I want to talk about that.
And before you get to, I want to agree with you 1,000% on this. A lot of the best authors and the best known people in relationships are women. But when men hear the advice from women, it's a lot of times counterproductive. So I'll give you an example. After my wife decided to leave me, I did some very deep, soul searching and researching, like, how did this happen? That's to me the ultimate failure in my life. And where I got the best advice was actually a men's seminar. So I actually went to the United States, had to go to a seminar with like thousands of men. But there are some incredible learnings, again, from men in this area, but they're very controversial. They're very against the grain of society. So I'll give you an example. What we know now is if we dig up a caveman and we take the DNA, which happens actually more often than we think, we take the DNA of a caveman and we take a look at our DNA. It's about 99% similar. Sure. So as modern, as advanced we think we are, we're really not different than a caveman or cavewoman. Why is that important? Well, if you think about the traditional role of a caveman or cavewoman, the caveman was out hunting and killing. I mean, that's what they were good at. And I think, Mark, you and I, we're hunters and killers. Like instinctively, that's what we're good at. But we're not maybe the best at nurturing and being these emotional, the strengths that women have. Yeah,
we've not evolved for that way. I mean, how did we as cavemen get to the top? Right? I'm sure we had to have some emotional intelligence, but we need to be competent. We need to be good hunters. We needed to also have good social skills and, be able to rally people around and whatnot. And I really love that model, actually. In many ways, I think it's good to think about how to become the modern version of the tribal chief. Right. Because I think that is really the way to win. And I think that's actually a great framework. So what you're talking about as a general framework or principle is that of evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology, as a way to explain behavior, which I think is quite different from what garbage they are spewing out of the universities these days, which is more what I'd call the social science model, which is that of you can be anything you want, right? Right. A man in a dress, who thinks he's a woman is a woman.
Yeah, you could be a cat, whatever you want to be.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, it's all about your pronoun.
It's all about your pronouns. If someone asks me, so do you have your pronouns? I'm like, yes, I identify as a lion. My pronouns are rawr, rawr. It's kind of good for a joke. I did that. I put that on LinkedIn for a few days, and I had some horrified people like, you can't put that online. Yes. But I think the whole pronoun thing is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
And Jordan Peterson does a great job of that in the comments on YouTube, which link to some of the things that he does on pronouns. But the advice that I've got, and again, a lot of it really comes not just from women, it comes from like beta guys too, which is you need to be more emotionally intelligent. You need to be more emotionally available for women. You need to be able to listen to all their stuff. You need to do more housework. Right. You do more dishes and more cooking, whatever. And if you do that, then your woman is going to be more attracted to you. She's going to treat you the way that she used to treat you back when before you were married. Right. And that is not true. That, of my experience, that is not true. I mean, it's the level of effort you'd have to put into the result that you get is incredibly high. And sometimes it's actually even counterproductive. And so I think the reason why we get this bad advice, even from women, is that even women don't really understand themselves very well. And that there's actually two axes that women are looking for. They have a dual sexual strategy. So this is what comes out of what's called the red pill movement, which is really born out of evolutionary psychology, where for a woman to succeed maximally in her sexual strategy, she needs to both have really great genes, which we're going to talk about this in a second. So they're great genes, but also get somebody who is going to be a good dad, right? So you got the sort of the bad boy over here, and a lot of women are really attracted to these people. Think about the gangsters. Think about, think about like the men that a lot of women, especially in their late teens, early 20s, tend to be attracted to, right? So you've got that in that direction. But then on the other one is women want security. And so they want someone who's going to invest. And the fascinating thing, I've seen some data on this, that the same woman is attracted to different men at different points in her menstrual cycle.
That's amazing too.
It's crazy. Yeah. So when she's ovulating, she's totally interested in the bad boy. wears low-cut tops, short skirts, much more likely to go into the nightclub, right? She's got this gravitational pull in order to do that. And then when she's perimenstrual, it's totally different. The hemline's lower, their top is higher. They're not going to the nightclub. They're spending more time in the library or the church or whatever. And the men they're attracted to are actually more of the provisioner types or the good dad types.
And to me, that was amazing. And you're 100% right about this, because I've done my own research on this. But men are very consistent. Like, we don't change, based on what week it is in the month, the kind of women we're attracted to. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, and that's one of many differences between men and women, right? So another probably the most important, really big difference, like the reason, so why do women have this dual like strategy, right? Which is different. So the male optimal strategy is Genghis Khan, right? Spread my seed far and wide. Apparently something like 18% of all the people in the world have Genghis Khan's DNA.
Wow.
He had sex with that many women. It's kind of bananas, but for men, it's much more simple, right? So a woman is constantly looking to see, how do I get the best man that I can?
Right.
And a man is like, how do I get more? Right? I remember, do you remember when Hugh Grant, so at the time when Hugh Grant was like the hottest guy in the world.
Yeah. And
do you remember and he had, who's that supermodel he was with? I mean, he's married to Klum. I think it was Heidi Klum. He was married to like the hottest woman in the world. And then he was caught with like a 3 at best, prostitute in a car in some parking lot in Hollywood. And the world, I mean, me, but especially a lot of women were just like, what the F, right? That doesn't make any sense. You've got the world's hottest woman over here. Yeah. Why would you do this? And it's just because they don't understand men, right? Men just want more. And you know what they say about prostitutes? What do you pay for? You know what you pay for? You don't just pay for, you don't pay for sex. You pay for them to leave. You pay for them to go away.
Right.
So in that way, men are more simple, but that woman's what's called the hypergamous instinct is, I think, really powerful. And so a woman constantly wants to know that she's with the best man she can get. And here's the thing that blew me away. This doesn't just happen when you're dating. It even happens in marriage.
Right, during the relationship.
Right, because think about what is the ultimate disaster for a woman sexually? The ultimate disaster. It's that she thinks she's with a great guy, but she's not. She's with a chump. So now she's carrying a baby that is second rate or third rate. She's got to nurture that baby to term. She's got to take care of that baby. That guy might leave. That is the ultimate disaster for a woman. I think it's one of the reasons why rape laws are so severe, right? Because the idea of impregnating a woman with subpar, genetic material is a really heinous act, against her. So like that's a woman's nightmare. A man's nightmare is that he is providing resources for a child that is not his own.
Right.
And so men have a lot of things that they have evolved to make sure that is, his kid. Right. Because for a woman, what would be the best thing to do would be to sneak out while ovulating, get someone else's sperm, and then I have this great dad that's going to take care of whatever the offspring is. Mm-hmm. That would be the ultimate. I mean, it's very devious, and for a lot of men, this is the ultimate nightmare. Yeah. But that's would be best would be for her to actually do both.
Yeah, right? I think I saw that on Jerry Springer.
I'm sure it happens. Yeah. No, what's interesting is that again, I really geek out on this stuff. Even in the most pair bonded animals you can think of, like think about an animal that are famous for being like married for life.
You got
me. So typically they're in the bird family, but swans are often given as an example. And so swans, you get the husband and wife swan, and they're like always together. But some scientists actually studied this, and they found that, the female swan will, if she can get away with it, she will go have sex outside of her marriage.
Really?
Yeah. And then she's got the cuckold swan that's now taking care of her.
We got to keep, when we go for walks in Hyde Park, Mark, we got to watch out for this.
You got to watch out for those cheating swans, right? So like cheating is just like, it's part, I mean, there's probably an adaptive reason for it. There's probably, it probably does some good for the population. Right. I think that's the key difference, right? Is of course, a woman has to carry a baby to term, has to nurture that baby for a long time. A man's sperm is cheap. The eggs are dear, the sperms are cheap. And that drives everything. And that drives such big changes between men and women in terms of their sexual behavior. But yet we don't act that way. Like we think, oh, she just probably wants what I want. She's probably thinking what I think, but she's not.
She's
right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm gonna talk about this hypergamy chart. So this comes from an analyst who I think is brilliant on YouTube. His name is HoMath, HOE_math. And he does some fabulous work in terms of creating frameworks and then creating lots of using TikTok videos to illustrate how his frameworks work. But this is probably one of the most important ones, which is the hypergamy chart. And basically we got a bunch of men over here. This is a 10 man. So this is like George Clooney in his prime. Over here is 10, or Brad Pitt, is over here, or Drake today is something like this. So a 10, 9, 8, mostly focused on looks, okay? But really in general, just attractientiveness in general.
Like one of these two.
Yeah.
That's a good example of a 10.
Back when we were 10s a few years ago.
Yeah.
So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you have the women there. The average is 5. Okay, so an average man here is 5, and an average woman is 5. So if you were to have like a well-balanced, kind of society, then you would have like the 5 males and the 5 females kind of hooking up. Or maybe you'd have 5s with 6s and 5s with 4s and whatnot, but it would be clustered kind of around here. But that's not what happens. It's not what happens today. It's never what happened in human society. So in human society, somewhere between 27% and 72% of the men get to reproduce. Whereas 95% plus of the women get to reproduce. Like historically, if you look back sort of millions of years. Today, it's actually getting really skewed because of online dating. And so what's going on is because of hypergamy, because women never want to date down. They always want to go up.
Yeah, they want a high value man.
In the highest value man they could possibly get, which is both in terms of looks and strength and all that good stuff on the attraction meter, but then also that they make money, that they're ambitious, and emotionally intelligent. There is value in that for sure. So what you've got the 6s and 7s and 8s here that are trying to go up here to getting to 10s, 9s, and 8s. The 3, 4 women are not interested in 3, 4 men at all. They want the 6, 7, 8s. And one of the challenges is at one point in their life, they may actually get there. So at that foam party back in university, they might have had sex with the 8 or 9. Why? Because men will do that, right? Men are perfectly happy with more. An 8 man is perfectly happy, as long as nobody sees him, having sex with a 3. I mean, it's okay. I'll put a bag over her head or whatever it is, and I'll hold my breath and I won't think about it later. It's happened. I don't know. You've probably done it once in your life. I know I have at some point in my life. It happens. So that's the challenge. So then you've got so these men here up to like 84,
is that Casper the ghost?
That's a ghost. So the reason why I have a ghost here is because these people don't actually exist to women at all. Like they don't even notice them. They're walking around, and if one of these people ever actually approached a woman, I mean, she'd scream. She'd be like, "Get away from me!
Offended.
Get away from me, creep!" Right?
Yeah.
So these people don't even exist at all down here.
Yeah.
So what you end up getting is a situation where the only people who really win in this chart are the 9s and 10s men, 8, 9s, and 10s. No one else is really winning. So all of these men down here are really struggling. And we've probably seen the stats where, even on online dating, something like, 10% of the men get 90% of the attention or something like that.
Yes.
Right. So these people here, these 4s and 5s are really struggling. These people don't exist at all. And they're on porn and video games and, eventually robots, whatever. But the thing is these women here are kind of stuck on their highest setting. So if I've been with a 9 before, and then I'm getting attention online from
a 7.
Yeah, 7, 8, 9, whatever, sending me it's cheap to send a comment on Instagram saying, you go girl, you're hot, whatever. So these people are not going to settle at all. So even if you're a 9 or 10 woman, you think, oh, you've got it made as a 9 or 10. But their choice, if let's say they actually want to have a family, settle down, they're not going to date down. They're going
Right.
to want to be with a 9 or 10 only. And those guys have as many women as they want.
Right. So Mark, what you're talking about is really important. If you look at why women are not having children and why they're waiting an extra decade, like literally a decade, this explains what's going on. They're holding out for this person that is probably not interested in them. And then we've got an entire generation where our birth rates are plummeting.
Right.
This year we had more immigrants in Canada and the US than our own birth rates. Like, this is incredible.
It's incredible. And I think online dating is really putting this on steroids. It's really bad, right?
Yes.
Where now, again, you've got, the combination of the online dating, but also, frankly, female success. Women are doing really well. So for the first time ever this year, 30-year-old women are out earning 30-year-old men. And that's going to accelerate. 67% of university attendant students in Canada are
mostly women.
Now,
Yeah,
are women
absolutely.
now. So they're the ones that are getting more educated. Men are increasingly just dropping out of dropping out of society. A number of men actually I know are the ones that are actually quite eligible heading overseas. They're going to Latin America, they're going to Asia, where they can have a better shot at both a higher standard of living, but also finding a traditional woman.
Right.
That's a very controversial topic. People call them passport bros. But I think that's going to become a real movement.
And a lot of men have just given up. I mean, they're into online porn, and they've just given up on dating. It's a lot of men.
It's really tough, right? In my case, I got together with my wife early, which is the advice that for sure I would give for young women. So my daughter's about to go to university, and the advice I give her is, don't spend all your time studying. You should go on dates. I mean, most fathers don't say that to their daughters,
right.
But I mean, honestly, that is the time where women are at their sexual market peak. 22. Women are at their sexual market peak at 22.
Right.
Men are at their peak at 36.
Right.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So when a woman is maximally attractive, that's a time to get a man who's kind of on the way up.
Yeah.
The advice for my son would be completely different, right? Which would be, have your fun university, get your experience, but you got to build your business.
Right. Become a high value man.
A high value man, which we're going to talk about that. So that when you're 28 or 29, you're making $250,000 a year, you're running a successful business, you've got interests, you've got hobbies, you're good looking, you're working out, you're going to get an amazing 22, 23-year-old if you want to settle down and have a family. That is an amazing combination to have. So I quite a bit different advice there.
Yeah.
I mean, as a man, you really want to be here.
Yes. Well, you have no choice. Like you're either there or you're nowhere.
Yeah, even in a marriage. So that's the thing.
Yes, even in a marriage.
Yeah, because you know what? A lot of men, myself included, I slack off a little bit. It's like, oh, whatever. You know what? We're married. We're happy. Okay, I've got a beer gut now.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. She says she likes dad bods. They don't like dad bods, by the way, but they say that. I'm going to work on my business. I'm going to go and build a business. I'm going to take care of my family.
Because we think we're being the provider, but and then we stop doing all the things we did when we were dating, like dressing as well as we did, doing all things, and we all make that same mistake.
Yeah, I think so, and I know we both did it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's a mistake, right?
Yeah.
And I think that even in a long-term relationship, I think it's still stuff to invest in. So what we're going to hear, what everyone says, and what your significant other is going to be complaining about is, I want you to invest more. Okay, so that's this angle here, right? I want you to invest more. I want you to do more housework. I want you to give me more attention. I want you to really listen to all my emotional crap and whatever. And there's probably some stuff there that is valuable. And I'll give you my framework on that in a bit. But for most men, and myself included, where to really focus is more in this direction, which is in being more attractive.
Right.
I mean, I'll just say from my personal experience, the best sex I've ever had in my life, a few times, has been when my woman has been jealous. when she's afraid that another woman can get me,
right,
that is when things really light up. I mean, not just good sex, but get treated better.
Yeah.
Wow, look, there's a dinner for me. Lots of other great things.
Yeah.
I think there's really something to that. A friend of mine, I remember he told me, because his wife was ragging on him for this and that. And one time he just tried something completely different that he read somewhere, which is, instead of doing the usual, which is saying, oh, I'm sorry, what can I do to make it up for you? And blah, 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 blah. He just said, look, lady, I'm going to be home in 15 minutes. I want you ready for me on the bed, and I'm going to give you, the time of your life. And that actually worked well because he was being dominant. He was actually
being alpha male.
masculine. He was being alpha
They want an alpha.
Masculinity.
Women don't want a beta.
Yeah. Again, that includes even in a long-term relationship.
Absolutely.
So what is this? This is another thing from Home Math. So what is this matrix? I think it's absolutely fascinating. So on this axis here, we have attraction. So someone here is a 10 out of 10 on the bad boy scale, or what Rollo Tomasi calls alpha fucks is in this area here. So someone, down here, this is the bad boy. So they're not investing much of anything into the woman. They're actually treating the woman like absolute crap.
Yes.
Okay. But they're super studly guy. Okay. This is the gangster. This is a celebrity. This is whatever, a lot
athlete.
Of, star athlete.
Yeah.
A lot of women may be willing to put up with this for a little bit because they're with, someone who is a good bad boy. So he's like, he's so bad for me, but I can't let him go. Right.
Yeah.
This is a 10 out of 10 on this scale, but no investment. 10 out of 10 on this scale, on this sort of security angle, is the friend zone. It's like, oh, you're like a brother to me, right?
Right.
And this is not a great area for men to be in because you're providing a lot of investment, not getting anything back. And again, this includes even in a long-term relationship. There's a lot of men out there that are friend zoned in their own marriage.
Yes.
Right. Where again, they're having pity sex or starfish sex once a quarter.
Yeah.
And that's as good as they're going to get. And they have to pester someone just for that.
Yes.
So they're in the friend zone. This is, a term that's in the vernacular right now. And as you go down, so at least this person is investing. When you go down here, so the creep zone over here is somebody who's investing, just a little bit, but is really unattractive to the woman. And then it's just like, I just wish he'd go away. Here you got the sugar daddy or blah zone. I'm not interested. Oh, he makes life easy for me because he gives me tons and tons of money. Right. But the attraction, isn't there. So where would be amazing for both sexes is to be here in this Prince Charming zone, where not only is the man super attractive to her, but he's also investing a ton. I mean, this is the man of my dreams. This is sort of Prince Charming over here. Where probably most relationships is in a settling zone over here. Right. Where you've got middling levels of attraction, you've got middling levels of security, and this is sort of a good enough guy. And maybe some women, especially later on in life, are say, I'll take it. I'll settle for that. I don't think that's a great place to be as a man. I don't think any man wants to be a woman's, not her first choice. Again, if she's remembering, this is the alpha widow concept. If she's hung up on the 9 that she was with in college, right? But now she's with you, the accountant or whatever, and she feels like, whatever, this is what I can do, the best I can do.
Right.
I don't think you're going to get treated very well over here.
Yeah. And sometimes relationships start maybe with Prince Charming, but then it moves where the man gets lazy and he starts, moving across as well. Yeah.
Well, and I think that does happen for sure. We got situationships over here. I know I've only heard of this phrase for the first time in the last few months, of situationships. A lot of women use this term, that they're not real relationships. So you've got like a bad situationship over here. Again, you got middling levels of attractiveness and small levels of investment. Over here, you've got a good or mid, where at least you've got someone really much more attractive, and he's putting in a little bit. He's not treating her like total crap, but he's giving her a little bit of a bone. And so a woman can stick around for quite a while, in that area are the situationships. But yeah, I think we should talk about now is, well, how do you build greater attraction? I mean, if this is what we want. And again, in general, the thing for most men, I think, to invest in is in this area. Yeah. We're both working on our fitness and getting in great shape. I mean, that's the no-brainer, right? Is invest a lot in your body, good diet and exercise and all that.
And I think that helps for lots of things. It helps you mentally. It helps you obviously physically. But I think that the biggest benefit is the confidence you have.
Yeah.
I remember reading a book by Donnie Deutsch, and he talked about how when he built a very successful multi-billion-dollar ad agency, but when he went into the boardroom of any of the companies he's presenting to, he'd look at each person and go, could I beat that guy up?
Yeah.
And in his mind, he's like, I can beat anyone, and he would win the pitch. So if working out is going to make you feel better, more confident, great, because that's a very attractive thing.
I totally agree. And there's other things too, like dressing better.
Right, that's huge. Because these days everyone's just wearing hoodies and track pants.
And I think that was my challenge in COVID. I mean, COVID ruined a lot of relationships, and mine definitely took a huge hit in there. And I put on weight. I was wearing a hoodie and sweats every day.
Right.
And they may not say something, but like they notice. So I think, and it does drive confidence. I think a lot of the techniques that are used even by pickup artists and other people when they're dating, I think they still can work even in your long-term relationship. So I think being more of an alpha guy, setting a clear, firm boundary, like you don't talk to me that way. That's it. This isn't going to work. When your significant other is being overly argumentative and you've given a warning, you leave, right?
Yeah.
You clearly show that you're dominant. And at first she may throw a hissy fit, but eventually we'll figure out that you're reclaiming that masculine role. And I think that's important.
I think a lot of women put men through a test. You want to just talk about the test that women do?
Yeah, I mean, so in the red pill literature, these are called shit tests. And that is they test the man's masculinity. So for example, they may sort of give a jibe at you in front of your friends. It's very common, right? How you handle that is really important. If you handle that like a little bitch and complain and whine about it, you've not passed the test.
Right.
If you've handled it with poise at the time and then later make it very clear that it's not acceptable, then you've done better, right? So you get tests all the time. Women may try to get you to fight, try to drag you, because sometimes women need that. They want that. They want that emotional.
They want the drama.
They want the drama. They want the up and down, right? And you can get sucked into it, or you can keep your frame, your dominant, your masculine frame, which ultimately is what she wants, right? Again, she's hypergamous. She wants you to pass. She really wants you to pass that test.
Yeah.
She wants to know she's with the best man she can be. She wants to know that you're the top guy and you're not going to take shit from anybody. Again, not in a rude way, but again, in a calm, confident, the modern version of the tribal chief, right? This is the guy that runs things. What is that person going to be like? That is, I think, the tone to kind of strike there. You're right. The shit tests never end. And it never ends because this is just the nature of, and there's no use complaining about it, right? Women shouldn't complain too about our drive to, be with multiple women. Doesn't mean we have to act on it, but we have that drive. Right. If a hot woman's going to walk by, we are going to look, all right? And you know what? If we're not looking, there's something wrong with us, right?
Right.
Nobody should complain about it. Funny, this is something really important. This is a great way to deal with shit tests, is with humor. Why? So if you look at what women desire most in men, versus what men desire most in women, one of the starkest differences is in sense of humor. So for women, it's typically, take a guess on like 1 to 10, how important sense of humor is.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be in the very top.
It's the very top. It's number 2 typically.
Wow.
It's really, really important.
Wow.
For men, it's not even in a top 10.
Right.
And for a lot of men, especially ones that are like not as confident and whatnot, it's actually a minus. They actually don't like a funny woman.
Right.
They're intimidating. I don't like them.
Right.
So massive difference, right?
It's true.
Why do you think women love a funny man so much?
Good one. I don't know.
Okay, let's try to figure it out. When a man is funny, like what kind of skills do you need to be funny?
I think you've got to be really smart. I think
Absolutely.
Intelligence, all these incredible comedians, these are really smart guys.
They're really smart.
Yeah.
And so for sure, and intelligence is attractive.
Yes.
In fact, I think if you look at the Mensa test, there's a number of the questions that are really humor-based.
Right.
So like, for example, hangry is like both hungry and angry together.
Right.
So there's a number of these kinds of things where they ask people, well, what do you think this word means? Here's another one that's funny, the bozone. That's the bozo zone. So a zone full of bozos is a bozo, okay?
Right.
So people who are really smart are able to figure those things out. And of course, intelligence is correlated with fitness and other good things.
Yeah, interesting.
But I also, people who are funny are also likable.
Right.
Likeable's huge. Again, if you want to be the tribal chief, it's not just about being a killer. It helps.
Yeah.
I'm sure those tribal chiefs, like no one fucked with those guys.
Yeah.
Right. But they were also probably good politicians.
Yeah.
Right? They were likable. I mean, good politicians are incredible. Like when you see Bill Clinton or Obama or Reagan, right?
Yeah, incredible.
These are incredibly likable people. I don't think our
Yes.
prime minister is particularly likable.
Well,
Whatever.
no, it's a camp counselor.
It's a case. Yeah, we'll this is not about politics. We'll go there.
Yeah.
But you know, funny is really important. I know you're considering taking a class.
Yeah, a second city course. Yeah. So the greatest salespeople I've ever met are funny. You watch a really good salesperson, most likely they're pretty funny. So because you can completely disarm the client, and it's amazing watching a really great salesperson that's funny. It's a superpower.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one I wrote down, which is mysterious. Okay. So in contrast to, I think, the advice that a lot of men get, which I don't think is right. Okay. Which is you need to be more in touch with your emotions. You need to relate to women more on an emotional level. And there's a place for that. And if we have time, I could talk about, I have a framework for how to think about emotional availability and whatnot. You know, I think one of the reasons why women want their men to do this is it actually exposes their weaknesses. Okay, like this is, I don't think these partnerships are necessarily always there. I think there are people in the partnership that are also thinking about themselves. They're thinking about what they want. And I think if you're going to divulge everything about yourself, and you're an open book, I don't think that's attractive.
Well, I can tell you where it's a real mistake. So I look back at my marriage. So one of the things I learned after we had broken up is why you should never share with your partner really negative financial things. Because the moment you do, a woman, it's subconsciously, she immediately will start looking for another provider.
Yeah.
It's subconscious. It's not even her fault.
Totally agreed.
So if you're honest with your provider, and we lived through the 2008 financial crisis. We're living in the US. We had all of our investments in US real estate. Our entire business was predicated on US real estate. I mean, it was bad. And I was very honest. How was your day? Well, it's pretty awful. I don't know how we're going to make all the mortgage payments, the car payments this month. Like, that's the worst thing you could do. You've pretty much destroyed your marriage when you have these conversations.
I think you're exactly right. I think at the same time, I think, if things are really falling, there's probably some duty that you owe your partner to be honest, whatnot. But that said, I think exactly right. I think that's the financial equivalent to, the guy gaining 50 pounds.
Right.
Where, you get the possibility of what's called mate switching behavior. So this is something that women do. It's something, you see that, for example, the war brides, like the war bride phenomenon is so interesting where, it's amazing how fast, for example, Japanese women, in 1945, hooked up with American soldiers and went back to the US.
Right.
Amazing. You wouldn't see that. Meanwhile, these are the conquering army, right? You would think that the women would be like, get the F away from me, but that's not what happens at all. They're actually, and it may be adaptive, right? In terms of having a human race continue, it's, maybe some of those women didn't mind being with Genghis Khan. I don't know.
and Mark, it's so different than when you're running a company and an employee comes to you and you're the CEO and things are really bad. You don't tell that employee, oh, things are really bad. We might, be cutting back. Because if you did have that honest conversation, the first thing that employee would be doing is, they're looking for a new job. Like they're on their way out. And it's no different with our spouses, with our partners.
That's just like, interesting.
It's just like talking to an employee. These are certain conversations, you go up, you speak to your friends, your peer group, but certain conversations you just don't have with employees and you don't have with your spouse.
Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting because, I was known when I was running my companies, especially my last one, Evolutionary. I was kind of famous for being very transparent, including about our financials. So when we had 6 weeks of cash left, we told everybody that we have 6 weeks of cash left. And part of it was to enlist them to say, we have 6 weeks of cash left. Here's what we're thinking. Here's what we think we're due, but we want your help.
So does that really work?
So it worked for me, but one of the things about the show one of the things I love about our content is that we don't know all the answers.
We don't have the answers.
And actually, and part of the reason why we're doing this
we're figuring it out.
We want to learn. Yeah. We actually want a broader community of people who are going to pipe in on this. So this is a great one. Which is how transparent do you want to be?
Yeah.
Either as a company leader, but then also with your spouse. Because sometimes, hopefully your spouse is like, she's not an idiot and maybe she can help. Maybe she can roll up
Right.
her sleeves and be in the mix together, and you can solve the problem together. So maybe it might depend on who it is that you've married, and
Sure.
hopefully you have somebody that of value. But I don't know what the answer is. What I do know is having some mystery is important.
Yeah.
What that means is you're not in her face all the time.
Right.
Okay, that you actually keep some distance, that there's something about you that she's always trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I think that's sexy.
Yeah.
Whereas an open book is not sexy, even though that's what they say they want. They say, I want transparency. I want you to, spew all your emotions everywhere on me. I don't think that's what they really want.
Yeah. I think, my interpretation of this is women are very attracted to alpha men. And I even think about like, who are my heroes in life? They're alpha men. Like I think about Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or, even Donald Trump. Like that's an alpha guy, right?
Alpha of alphas.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think men like leaders that are alpha, and I think women like alphas as well. What they're not looking for are betas. And I think a lot of men, just playing video games and being on porn all day, that's not helping them become high value men. And I think that there's a time in history where this becomes really important, because online, like literally this online dating, there's like 10 to 15% of men, they're getting all the women. So unless you get to that level, you're in deep trouble. I mean, until there's female robots, and I know we were joking about that today, but within the next year, we're going to have a human-like robot.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you in 10 years, so today it's March 4th, 2024. Hopefully you'll see this in 10 years. And it might be a small group, but I'm going to bet that the small group is going to already be dating robots. So there's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see a little bit of it in Asia, like in Japan in particular, which always seems to be a leader in this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And my prediction is, well, I mean, when I've seen robots, they typically are female robots. These are fembots. I bet you, because of what we're seeing here, is you're going to see male robots too.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I think there's going to be a lot of lonely women. It's not just this lonely men. But what happens, unfortunately, the suicide rate for men is more than 4 times that of women. So a lot of these guys down here, I mean, literally do become ghosts. You don't really hear of them. They drop out of society, and many of them are dead.
Number two cause of death for people under 40 is now suicide. Loneliness is an epidemic, and we don't talk about it. We just call it mental health, and that's why most people we know now are either addicted to alcohol, they're addicted to drugs, or they have pets. I mean, they're all masking loneliness.
Yeah, for sure, right? So you don't want to be that guy, right?
Yeah.
So for people who are listening in, I mean, those who have had success but then have had a stumble, you don't want to be that person that is going to be lonely, that is,
and you don't want to be complacent, because
here, right?
Mark, I think if you would have interviewed us years ago, would we ever thought that our relationships would fail? And I think we both say no.
Yeah. Right.
So because we're confident, successful providers, and we thought, hey, we're doing it right. So don't, for anyone listening that is in a marriage or a great relationship, don't be complacent.
Right. I totally agree on that point. So we've covered a lot of these things down here. So if you've got 100 units to invest in yourself, I would invest 80 units over here to make yourself more attractive. Again, which is not just you can't do anything about your height, but your body, your fitness, your fashion,
all the health
your
areas.
funny, your friends, your male friends,
super important.
Your confidence, even some of these dark traits here, intimidating, no one fucks with you, your leadership, right? I would invest 75 to 80 points over here. But I do think that it's worth investing a little bit up here too. And the way that I guess I've thought about this, and maybe some of the advice that I got is, find one thing that you can really nail on this security beta side of things, right? And so, in my case, it was actually being a father, particularly my relationship with my son, where I think I really understood him very well, better than my significant other, my better half. And so I really focused on that as my sort of primary thing that I was going to really nail. And maybe secondarily, I learned a few good recipes.
But I think you've nailed it. I think being a great father is probably the most valuable, most desired skill, because that's really what these women are looking for.
Yes.
They're actually looking for who's going to be a great father. And they're really hard to find, by the way. They're really hard to find.
They want both, right?
Yes.
But especially, so somebody who is up here, this is the husband zone up here, right? So you know, he's not Brad Pitt or George Clooney, but he's certainly attractive enough. But holy cow, he rocks it up here,
right?
Because he's a great father, and we're going to break that down a little bit. You know, I think for me, where I further broke it down is on the really big things, right? So right now, for example, my daughter's looking to go to university, really helping her think through which university to go to, which program to go to, why go to it, and have her sort of think about it herself in a way so that when she makes her decision,
it's a big decision.
It feels like her decision.
Right.
So the really, really big things that move the meter. I'm the one who focused on teaching my daughter to drive, for example.
Right.
Really big thing that's gonna move the meter. That's going to be life-changing. Sort of I focus in that area and do a really good job. So do a 10 out of 10 job on the big projects that really matter is kind of the way I've thought about it.
And I think fathers' roles are being diminished when it comes to our kids. But if you see the stats of children that are growing up without a father, they're devastating. I mean, if you take a look at, for example, men, so 3/4 of men in prisons right now grew up without a father. I mean, I can go on and on. Yeah. It's incredible. So I think men have an incredibly valuable role as being great fathers and great role models. So when I think about getting physically fit and healthy, I'm doing it for myself, but I'm also doing it for my kids.
Right.
You know, so I want them to see this is what you're supposed to do. So this our job is to be the role model.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's, you know, so in terms of me, what I'm doing now, right, I guess I have a couple of projects, right? You know, you do too, but right now really focus on fitness. That's my number one thing. We have a photo shoot on June 22nd. I'm going to look fabulous for that, you know, for that photo shoot. And a couple of other things. So taking dancing lessons. So I think dancing, so Latin dancing, I think it's a real hack.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think dancing shows a lot. It shows confidence. It shows sexiness. It's like a lot of
women like it. Yeah,
a lot of women like it. It's actually not that hard to.
Right.
It's not that hard to
and from a happiness perspective, it makes people happiest. It's like the number one thing.
True.
It beats any drugs you could possibly take.
Yeah, I mean, every psychologist should be prescribing dancing.
It's true.
It works better than everything else.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it really is being a great dad. So focusing on, you know, on those aspects, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. I know you're thinking about you know, improving your sense of humor, and I know you're working on your fitness too.
Yeah, and the only thing we haven't talked about is having a purpose. So in addition to, you know, raising my kids, I have a purpose to solve a big issue, and the issue that I picked is affordable homes, which is, you know, it's incredible what's happening around the world, and loneliness, and I found a way to solve both.
Love it.
So I think all of us need a purpose that's way bigger than us, a way bigger purpose than any of us.
Yeah. Well, what I love about having a purpose, especially one, and I think you should tell that purpose to everybody. I think everyone should hear about it. I mean, one thing I learned from being a CEO, you know, we talked a little bit about emotion. I think we talked about it in previous shows, that we can't make decisions without our emotional brain being engaged. And you know what is the most engaging for the emotional brain? That's a bright future.
Right. Absolutely.
People are future focused. You know, I had a great coach. So I remember when I had my batting average for hiring like really high end executives was low. Like I was just too many great candidates didn't want to work for my company.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that my coach at the time did is he got me to really have one foot in the future. So, and I think this really is true for relationships too. Most people are mired in a shit of today. Right?
Yes.
Right? You're thinking right now, you're right now not thinking about your bright future. You're thinking about all the shit that you've got to do and all the things that are going wrong in your life.
Sure.
And if somebody's going to talk to you, you're gonna emanate that stuff. And the same thing is true when you're hiring a senior executive, you're telling him or her about all the crap that's going on because you want him or her to fix it. Right? But what I was taught was instead, you need to really imagine what your company's going to look like in 2 years. You need to know what the org chart is going to look like in 2 years, and you communicate that.
Yeah.
This is the vision that I have. We're going to eradicate loneliness. We're going to take care of these real estate problems. Here's how we're going to do it, right? This is your role. And hopefully they get really excited about their role in your future, and then say, oh, but we got challenges today. That's what, you know, and hopefully they get excited about those. And I think the same thing is true, you know, in relationships. Like, again, you got mired in all the shit financial stuff of today.
Yeah.
If you were to say, here's where we're going,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's where you come in and where you could help me as a partner build that.
Yeah.
Future focused.
I think it's super powerful. I had a billionaire client trying to convince me for 2 years to do a big project in India. I was already working in Australia, in China, in Kuala Lumpur. Like I was working in all over the place. The last place I wanted to add was India. I just wasn't interested.
Yeah.
So he finally flew to Toronto, and I remember we're at the Nespresso Cafe in Yorkville, and I remember what he told me. He told me how we're going to build a smart city, and we're going to lift the middle class of India, give them a way of life they'd never seen before. And it was so compelling. At the end of that, I had to be part of it. And we ended up building our first smart city in India. But it was the vision.
Yeah.
It was because the money wouldn't have done it. I didn't want to get on another 15-hour flight and like I just didn't want to do it. But the way he described how we're going to lift an entire generation of people and show them a way of life that they would never have. I mean, I was just inspired. So it absolutely works.
I'd be too. Yeah. And I think that same idea works in relationships too. I think humans are future focused.
Yeah.
That's what lifts our spirits and what engages our emotional brain. And so maybe we'll end on that note.
Sure.
Right?
And our tagline for our show is "The best is yet to come." And we really believe that.
Yeah. And yes. And also we're the best standing podcast.
Best standing, number one standing podcast, and our production crew has doubled this week, so it's very exciting. We're in a high growth category here.
Right on. All right.
All right.
Well, let's wrap
Thanks
it up
everybody.
and
Appreciate your time. We know you could be listening to any podcast in the world. You chose us today, and we're very, very grateful to you. Thank you so much.